Hi, this is Joe again with another video. For the sake of this video, we're going to be discussing the 2018 Baseball Hall of Fame class, which was formally decided on just last night. So I'm going to do a review of that, but I'm mostly going to be focusing on one particular player, which I'm going to save for the end of this video. Of course, this time we're going to have 6 living Hall of Fame is going to be inducted this year in 2018 in Cooperstown. And of course, I also should mention that the Broadcaster Hall of Fame is going to open its doors for Bob Costas this year. So he's going to be, so he's actually going to have at least 7 speeches this year, which is a ton for Cooperstown. Because we have so many players in the Hall of Fame that came in the last few years. So now we'll go to the former players who are going into the main Hall of Fame, having the plaques in the plaque room of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Of course, 2 players were voted in from the Veterans Committee, and there are 2 former Detroit Tigers, who are shortstop shortstop Alan Trammell, and analyst Lou Whitaker, who played for so long for the Tigers, and former Tigers teammate Jack Morris is also going to go in. So 2 players from the 1984 team, and it's one of the few teams in the 1980s, other than maybe the 1989 Oakland A's, who doesn't have a player yet in the base, as well as the 88 Dodgers, or 2 teams in the 1980s who don't have at least 1 player in the Hall of Fame. All the other teams that won a championship in the 80s have at least 1 player in the Hall of Fame, except for, and also I should mention the 81 Dodgers. The 81 Dodgers, 88 Dodgers, and the 89 Oakland A's don't have a player in the Hall of Fame. The rest of the teams that won does have at least one player in the Hall of Fame. Of course, Jack Morris, when I feel that Alan Trammell was like a borderline Hall of Famer, because he played for so long and put up the stats in terms of the hits. But unfortunately, Alan Trammell's been forgotten because he played the same amount of time, almost does about the same amount of time as Cal Ripken Jr. So Cal got all the publicity and played all those games in a row and started the All-Star games. And Alan Trammell, a lot of those times, was the All-Star reserve during the All-Star games in the 80s. So it's kind of forgotten because Ripken was a shortstop for so long in the American League. But I always felt that Trammell was always kind of like a borderline guy anyway. So he got in. But Jack Morris, he was like the best pitcher in the American League during the 1980s. He had the best winning percentage, the best ERA. And of course, he won 3 world championships. One, of course, with the 84 Tigers team, of course. And also pitched who was the World Series MVP in the 1991 World Series by that great pitching performance in the 7th game when he pitched all 10 innings, shut out the Braves in Game 7. And of course, he also won the first Blue Jays championship in 1992. So he won back-to-back world championships for 2 different teams in 91 and 92. So he should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. But the baseball writers stiffed him pretty much because he thought they was like overrated, and he didn't have 300 wins and all that type of stuff. But there were plenty of pitchers in the Hall of Fame who don't have 300 wins, like Jim Palmer, who has only 268 wins. I think that's like fewer wins than around the same amount as Jack Morris. I think Jack Morris won more games. I think he won 284 or something like that. Jack Morris should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. I felt that way. Now it's time to discuss the players who were voted in by the baseball writers on the 2018 ballot. And this time 4 players, which is I think since the most in a while, because usually about 3 guys got in the last few years. Especially when you had Smokes, Maddox, you had Pedro, and you had Randy Johnson in one year. And of course, you had Glaver going in the next year. Tom Glaver going in the next year, and it's a running theme here with the Braves. It's going to be that way in a minute, because you have Jim Thome, long time from the Indians and the White Sox mostly. He got in there because he had 612 home runs, and it's one of the few guys who hit that much during the steroid era who got it, because he wasn't suspected as being a steroid user. So he got it, and he really deserved it because he played first base for at least most of his career, and then second half of his career couldn't play at the field anymore. He was a DH in America because of the American League DH rule. He was able to prolong his career and having to get 612 home runs because of it. So he's getting in for that. Another player who deserved to get in, who has the second most saves in Major League history, is Trevor Hoffman. Now I have a great story with Trevor Hoffman. I saw him pitch one time for with the Padres, because that's what he spent most of his career with. And when I saw him, I think the only time I remember seeing him in person was in 1999, and I think this clip was actually on YouTube actually. April 28th, 1999 was the Padres versus the Mets, played here at Shea Stadium, no Citi Field yet, so another 10 years later. And it was the first year that Mike Piazza, who got into the Hall of Fame 2 years ago, was hitting against him, and I actually called this home run about 10 minutes before it happened. Because I actually attended this game, went to the game with my father. The 8th inning was over. It was a cold night at Shea Stadium at the end of April, and my father wanted to leave early. And he said, "Hey," and was keeping score of the game. And I said, "Don't you realize what's coming up in the 9th inning for the Mets?" He says, "Who?" And I said, "Oh, John Olerud, Mike Piazza, and Robert Ventura will come up in the 9th inning." So he goes, "So what?" I said, "Well, who knows? Maybe we get lucky and maybe we see Mike Piazza hit a 2-1 home run and win the game." And my father goes, "Oh, come on!" He just came off the DL, because he was on the DL for 2 weeks because he bumped his knee sliding awkwardly into second base in Montreal. During the first weekend of the season, and he just came off the DL, and he says his time is off. I said, "Dad, I'm telling you, he's going to come up, hit a 2-1 home run over Hoffman and win the game." And so my father says, "Okay, let's save for the 9th and see what happens." Sure enough, it happened exactly the way I called it. John Olerud hit a line right base hit through the hole through the third and short. And the second pitch of his at bat, actually, and the very next pitch, which was the first pitch in Piazza's at bat, Piazza hits a home run over the head of, ironically, Tony Gwynn in right field. Mets win the game 4-3. Crowd goes nuts, and looked at my father like this and said, "Yeah." He didn't even know what the hell to say. And my father says, "How the hell did you know that he was going to hit the home run off of Hoffman?" And I said, "Because I had a radio with the headphones," and I said that they had a stat on the radio, so the Padres have won 100 at that point, 181 consecutive games were leading after 8 innings, and they were leading after 8 innings at that point. And he said the Padres would just do to blow a game, and they did. And so that's my Trevor Hoffman story. They saw Piazza hit a home run off Trevor Hoffman to win a game. And it was the only time they saw in person a walk-off home run in person. And they have it 5 times in games that I attended, but that was the only one they saw live. All the other ones they saw either on the local news or on tape or something, or a replay of a game. That's the only time I saw live in person was that moment. And my father couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I called it about 10 minutes. Like I said, 10 minutes before it happened. So Hoffman deserves to be in there. The only problem with Hoffman is Chris Mad Dog Russo, former host of WFVN radio here in New York, and it's on Sirius XM. Now, he always complains about Trevor Hoffman. Even though he has the second most saves in baseball history, he should not be in the Hall of Fame because he blew too many games. I think he blew about 2 games in the World Series against the Yankees in '98. When the only other time, other than '84, the Padres were in the World Series, and he blew too many games. And also, he blew I think at least one game one All-Star game. That was when the All-Star game determined home field advantage. Until the final rule was finally got rid of last year. In 2017, they finally got rid of that stupid rule. So Hartman, I think, blew at least at least one All-Star game, and I think about two games in the '98 World Series against the Yankees. So rules was that because he blew 2 games in the World Series, he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. Well, Mariano Rivera blew more games in the World Series blew more games in the playoffs, I should say, than Trevor Hartman did. He blew a game in '97 against Cleveland, and he also blew games against the Red Sox in 2004 when the Yankees had the big collapse, and during the 2004 regular season against the Red Sox, and he blew 2 games against the Mets. So he's not, Mr. Perfect. The other Hall of Fame that you should mention is Vladimir Guerrero, who's probably going to go in as a Montreal Expo, who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He got screwed last year, just like Hoffman did, and he deserved. He also should have been in last year as well, in 2017. Now I'm going to save the best for last, or should I say the worst for last, not the best for last, and that's Larry Jones from the Braves. Otherwise known as Chipper, and refuse to call him by his nickname. A grown man should not be called Chipper. Okay? This, and the first time in baseball on the Baseball Writers ballot, they voted for a guy for what he did against one baseball team. And that, of course, is right here, baby, the Mets. Larry Jones does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry. I know I'm going to get blasted by Braves fans. Even some Mets fans disagree with me on that. Oh, he was a great player, deserved to be in there. Any Mets fan who says that Larry Jones should belong in the Baseball Hall of Fame is not a Mets fan. I have to say this. Because Larry Jones disrespected in 1999, in September 1999, he disrespected every single solitary Mets fan on this planet. For those of you who don't know, who wasn't around then, who was watching this video, in 1999, there was a heated pennant race between the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves. And the Braves beat the Mets out because the Braves were just creaming the Mets, and every single time they faced them in the regular season, especially in games in Atlanta. And Larry Jones, in September, I actually went to 2 of those games in Shea. The Braves beat the Mets 5 out of the 6 games. I actually went to the only game they won, and the Mets won, and also went to the only game, one of the 5 games the Mets lost. But anyway, the Mets lost 5 out of the 6 games to the Braves in the end of September, which pretty much killed any chances the Mets had against the playoffs. But because of dumb luck, the Mets got into the playoffs anyway in 1999. But after those 6 games against the Braves, everybody thought the Mets were dead and the chance of going in the playoffs. And Larry Jones, after the 6th game, which was played at Shea Stadium, Larry Jones says, "No, you Mets fans could put your Yankee gear on." Because the Yankees had already clinched the division and was going to the American League playoffs. And so, of course, Larry Jones insinuated that all Mets fans, if the Yankees win the playoffs and the Mets win, Mets fans jump on the Yankees bandwagon and root for them, which is just so disrespectful for every single Mets fan. And I never jumped on the stupid Yankee bandwagon if the Yankees were in the playoffs, the Mets won, which has been a lot in the last 20 plus years. So the Yankees have been in the playoffs, and the Mets won. I never jumped on I watched the Yankees, of course. I watched the games because I want to see the Yankees lose. But I never rooted for the Yankees to win. I never jumped on their bandwagon, not at all. And for a piece of shit like Larry Jones to say something like that, it's an insult to me, an insult to every single Mets fan. And I'm repeating it again. If any Mets fan who defends Larry Jones, or any Mets fan who says Larry Jones deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, along with any other member of the Atlanta Braves from the 90s, you are not a real Mets fan. I have to say this right now. Anybody who says Larry Jones deserves to be in the Hall of Fame is not a real Met fan. Because if you look at his stats, Larry Jones' stats, except for maybe past batting average, because he had better batting average, I understand, against the Phillies. But except for batting average, every other offensive stat that Larry Jones has against the Mets is the best compared to all the other teams. So the home runs, RBIs, doubles, base hits in general. His slugging percentage is better against the Mets because he had more home runs against the Mets than any other team. He had 49 home runs. Now, like I said earlier, Larry Jones is the first player who's been elected to the Hall of Fame on the baseball writers ballot for what he did against one team. I mean, he had over 400 home runs and truly only hit 49 against the Mets, which is like the third best behind Mike Schmidt and Willie Stargell, because Willie Stargell had 60. Because don't forget, Willie Stargell had like 20 years playing against the Mets, about just as long as Larry Jones had. But since the Mets moved into Citi Field and Larry Jones wasn't the player that he was, as he was 10 years earlier, he couldn't hit home runs constantly out of Citi Field as he did out of Shea. Because the configurations were different, even though it's literally was right next door to Shea, but he couldn't knock balls out of Citi Field like he did in Shea. So he was like pissed off playing in Citi Field because he couldn't beat the shit out of the Mets here. So I feel he does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Larry Jones does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame because of what he did, because he only hit one team in his life. That's the Mets. That's the only team he ever hit in his life. He couldn't hit the Yankees. He played the Yankees twice in the World Series. I don't think he even hit one home run. In 10 World Series games he had against the Yankees, I don't think he ever had one home run. If he hit one home run against the Yankees, it's a lot. So he never beat the Yankees. He lost the Yankees twice. Lost 8 consecutive World Series games to the Yankees. I mean, he couldn't hit the Yankees. He couldn't hit them. And this is a Hall of Fame player. He is not a Hall of Fame player in any stretch of the imagination at all. He's not. He's just not. I don't care what anybody's... And how come, with all the MLB coverage they had yesterday, how come not one so-called baseball expert ever brought that up? They only hit the Mets and nobody else. And to rub it into the Mets fans with that comment, oh, you Mets fans can put your Yankee game on now. Says, I kicked your team's ass for 6 games. You can put your Yankee game on and root for the stupid Yankees in the playoffs now, because the Mets are out. You can root for the stupid Yankees now, Mets fans. In the 19 years since since Larry Jones made that comment, he never apologized for it. And to rub it into the Mets even more, he named his first kid Shea, after Shea Stadium, because what was his success there? Because he hit 19 of his 49 home runs he hit against the Mets, he hit at Shea Stadium. More than anybody. So that's why, if I had to vote for the Hall of Fame, I would never vote for Larry Jones, because he only hit one team, the Mets. And baseball writers in general always favored players who beat the Mets all the time. They did it with Mike Scott in the 86 playoffs. They also did it for Mike Smith, gave him the 86 National League MVP award over Gary Cole and Keith Hernandez. Well, those two guys deserve to have the MVP and not Mike Schmidt. And they gave Willie McGee the MVP the year before over Hernandez and Carter as well, because they didn't want to give it to a Met. And only 4 players from that team, well actually 6. Those Brave teams in the 90s have 6 Hall of Famers, 4 Hall of Famers, and the Mets only have 2. And that's Piazza and Seaver. That's it. Or 2 Hall of Famers recognized as a Met, I should say. And I'm talking about Bobby Cox was a fucking idiot. You have to say so. Because he won 14 divisional titles, so only won one World Series out of it. At least the Mets were, even though the Mets won the World Series 5 times, at least they won twice. They won 2 out of the 5 in their history. The Braves won the World Series 5 times, and they only won once out of 5. Which is like the worst record you could possibly have. And they won 14 divisional titles, and only won once. And they should not even be in the World Series in 1999 because it was given to them on a silver platter by Kenny fucking Rogers. But Larry Jones should not be in the Hall. It should be recognized on his plaque. Only was able to hit one baseball team, the Mets, on his plaque. So that's my review of the the 2018 Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame class. Please click on the video, please rate it, feel free to comment on it. Please subscribe to my channel, and please forward this video onto your Facebook pages. You can check out all my reviews on my YouTube channel at rowdyc.com. There's all WDY, LaC.com. There's a whole page around reviewer, Christy Moore, and please check out all of his videos on his website. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time. And to Larry Jones, fuck you, Larry. Larry, Larry, Larry.